Welcome everyone to another Nature Mystic Thursday. We're going to talk about the Paqo Kuna tradition of Peru. And both me and Melissa have trained under Don Zane Curfman, author of Inka Mountain Magic. And we just want to bring a little bit of the nature mysticism tradition to you and see how it might help you in your life.
We've got so many things we can answer.
We can. But today is kind of like a free-form discussion because, well, the reason is we did not come up with a topic in time, so we'll just do a free-form discussion. So if you've been catching the stream, if there's something you want to know more about, if you have no idea what we're talking about, you want to just have us start with a little bit from the beginning, we can do that. Just let us know your questions, but we're just kind of stalling a few moments so people realize that we're on.
Yeah.
But nature mysticism, that is really any mystic. The word shaman, which we kind of avoid using, that is for one particular tribe or tradition in the Tungus Siberian of Russia. But anthropology and everything gets lumped under shamanism, but really it's mysticism. And mysticism is across the board, but a lot of mystics get shoved up underneath shamanism. So we just want to make that distinction too, what the difference is. And let me go change my privacy setting real quick while I remember.
Yeah. So today's kind of like an open free-for-all ask questions. If you've been following along in past lives and maybe questions have popped up for you, you can go ahead and answer or ask and we'll, answer. Or just questions in general about the tradition that maybe we haven't covered. It's free form. You can ask us anything about the tradition. And we can answer it. And if our teacher ends up lurking in the comments, as he is prone to do, sometimes he'll answer too.
Yep, and we will plan to do some separate streams with Zane. It will be unlikely on a Thursday, though, just with his schedule. Usually on Thursdays, all he can do is lurk from the comments section. But we may have him on like a Tuesday or Monday at some point, and we'll have like a whole thing with Zane as well. And this is all for just being the invitation for you to learn more about the tradition, whether it's through some of my things that I have going on through with the concerts and things that I weave the tradition in, or the whole apprenticeship coming up next year. It's just to give you a taste and see how it might help you in your life. Because it's changed my life. It is something I use every single day. I even have my little Kintu Misha here, and I go and I open up the energies and connect with all the different nature elements. But we don't really look at it as elements in this tradition. It really is the consciousness or the spirit of the wind, the consciousness or spirit of the earth, versus like just earth as an element. So that it's just one distinction from the tradition as well.
Yeah. So feel free, ask us questions. So, I mean, I agree. This is probably of all the things that I've ever trained in, this is something that I use almost daily, all the time. It's practical. It's easy to use. It's very going to teach you about yourself when you think you're self-aware and you become more self-aware. So it's very empowering as well. So, this is always a tradition that I'm like, no, this is one that I really think that a lot of people can get so much benefit out. Hey, Karen. There we go. And I think one of the things that kind of helps prove that it's self-empowering, and I can't remember, it was more than halfway through. Zaina made the comment that, as you become better in yourself and spiritually and mentally and emotionally secure, people start falling away. And, there's big shifts happening. So, and I think all of us had like huge things that started kind of coming up. And so at first it can seem alarming, but at the end you're like, oh, okay. And that doesn't mean that you lose those people forever.
Or it might.
Or it might sometimes for the good, always for the good, but you're working on yourself and this person kind of feels a little uncomfortable, they go work on themselves and they're like, oh, so sometimes you come back together and slightly different paths maybe, but you're still working and you can honor back and forth. And then there's just some people who get so uncomfortable with the way you feel now energetically, how you feel to them, because you're more confident in yourself and you may not act exactly the same way. And they're not used to that. And that makes them so uncomfortable that they're like, yeah, I am no longer available for coffee on Wednesdays. So, you know, and you're like, great, well, maybe talk on the phone or maybe not at all. So, but I think
I've
that was
been
right. And that
no,
was
well, I've been outright blocked by people, and then I had like almost like a rehearsed script. Thank you so much for everything. I'm gonna go a different direction. See you later. Bye bye. And then gone and not really talked to again, which is fine. I also was going through my little batshit crazy midlife crisis thing, so it could have been a combination of program stuff and just losing my mind over things. So.
right. You know, I didn't have such severe. I mean, my severe, like we talked last week, was like, you know, the store catching fire. But just certain people. And it really was just more of like becoming aware of myself and going, oh, I keep allowing that to happen because of this, you know, about myself. So I'm like, okay, well, I need to quit doing that and honor this for me, or quit doing that because it's not healthy for whatever reason, be it financially, mentally, emotionally. And then those people just kind of went, oh, I can't get that out of you anymore. And so they just kind of wandered away. So it
Yep.
wasn't like big blow ups. It was kind of like, I'll just go over here now. And I'm like, okay,
Yep.
cool. That
What I
saves kind of uncomfortable conversations when they just kind of delete themselves out.
I think that it comes down to a term that we have in the program called Aini, which means divine reciprocity. And as you learn what Aini is and you learn to be in Aini with everything, the relationships that are not in balance in terms of giving and receiving, those are the ones that naturally fall away if you think about it energetically. And I think as you go through the program and embrace these principles and start to change your life, you kind of boil down your entire life as to, does this serve the authentic me that I'm becoming? And the things that don't serve you fall away. And the things that do get to stay. And by getting rid of those things, or people getting rid of you, depending which way it's going, it frees up bandwidth for other things to come into your life. So it really is like a purging, a pruning, so that you can have more fruits of abundance in your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point, right? You may be okay, right? And that's always like the shift of perception. You know, I'm like, okay, you know, go do other things. And I'm sure that person's like, oh my God, that Melissa. Okay. I'll own it. Okay. Bye-bye. And I think that was one thing that was a big thing for me to kind of learn in this one. It's like, I don't care what you think near as much as I used to. And I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. You know, it's a perception. And what's that saying? It's like, what other people think of me is not my business. So, okay, think what you want. You know, I understand what you think is from your perspective and how you're viewing things. And that may not necessarily be true of how we're working, because I have made changes for the betterment of myself and whatever I'm doing in my little world around me, what needs to happen. And if you don't like it, sucks to be you, I guess, if you choose to take that stance. Okay. But hello, Karen. And yeah, those, when they kind of take themselves out, it is a huge favor. One less thing to do, right? One less conversation to have. Like, okay, bye. So now Karen and Brooke, I know you ladies are there. I can see in the back end, and you've expressed some interest. So since we're an open format, feel free to ask questions for either one of us personally of how, you know, maybe it affected what we learned, or just in general. Facebook user, can you speak on the personal pachas and the universal pachas and how they're related? And go, Hank.
Go.
Yeah, I spoke last.
It's like the macro and the micro. All creation is within you. You are the earth is you type of thing, and everything's projection and all that. But really, like, the personal pachas are a mirror of the outer pachas. So you have the underworld, the subconscious, you have the middle world here, and then you have the upper world, which is like the higher self. But it's really all mirroring the cosmos and all that. That was Zane. Look at that.
Yeah. We need to just figure out how to get him to come up as Zane and not Facebook user.
He has to click the button. There's like a little link. Oh, and like, and when I teach tuning forks, like I kind of adapted some tuning forks, like the solfeggio set, that it's like a thing of 369, and I've mirrored it to like the worlds, like the underworld, because all worlds are within each other. And Tesla said if you understood the magic of 369, it's like the unraveling of the cosmos, or understanding everything. But you use them for different types of work depending on which world you're working on. You use different animal allies and things to help navigate that world, and for your personal development, and bringing things from the other than conscious, elevating it to the conscious, and just being able to really balance things. Because if you're just a space cadet and you're only in the upper world all the time, that's not going to be useful. And if you're so grounded that you can't do anything, that's not going to be useful. So the worlds are really about balancing and being able to be in the world but not of it, being in that center. And you
Mhm.
do the different exercises and you navigate the different worlds so that you have the ability to hold that space for other people and be able to be that conduit to balance the living energy. That's really what all it is that we're doing. The shaman, the nature mystic, navigates these worlds and holds a space to help redistribute the living energy of anything and everything around you. You even get up, you do it unconsciously. You do this so long that just you walking through a space by itself is starting to just shift things. And oh, that's actually reminds me of a funny story, but I don't know if I want to tell it now. But but just
Mm.
your mere presence can shift people's uh, lives and things when you're really moving the energy like that.
So Judy asks, if you don't really want to deal with the personal stuff that's coming up, how far in the work can you go? I guess technically you can sit there and pretend to take notes through the whole darn thing. Are you going to get any value out of it? Probably not. Um, it would be honestly a huge like disservice and a waste of your money to sit in for what, 6 to 8 months, maybe even longer, because things keep coming up. And I don't think any year apprenticeship has ever stayed completely on track. Um,
Yeah.
so honestly, if you're not willing to do the work, it's why? Why do it? Why take an art class if you're not going to put
Well,
anything on the paper? Is
it
my
kind of reminds me of in step work when you have to do like the really hard stuff, like personal amends, and you know you have an amendo with someone, and like you really don't want to do it. And then like my person I was working with would say, "Well, how free do you want to be? Do you have to do it? No, but if you do it, the benefit and the propulsion in your life is so great because of that shift of energy. Because essentially all that personal stuff, it's like these little bundles of heaviness that are dragging you down that are heavy, but all that really is condensed fuel. You know, it's like fuel to, once you start to shift it and transmute it through an active process of change, it propels you like rocket fuel, and you like fly into the next dimension of things. So like, do you have to do it? Like it just slows your pace is all. And there's not a right or wrong to not wanting to do the work. You know, how free do you want to be? How much change do you want? How fast do you want that change? That's all personal choice, and there's not a rightness or wrongness to choosing to do that or not.
mm-hmm. Zane's like the personal work is what develops your gifts.
Yep. True
So,
story.
you could also look at it depending on what school of thought you want to think on this. If it is something that you know that would progress you and you're choosing not to, there are some beliefs that that means next time around in life, guess what? You get to do it all over again because you didn't learn that lesson. So by no means is this like come do the apprenticeship where you will never move on, but it's kind of one of those, if you're starting to see the signs, be it this school of learning or something else to make you deal with those personal things and you keep pushing them down, they're going to keep coming up.
Yep. It's
So,
cycles.
and even if it
Astrology
feels,
or not astrology, cycles.
eh,
I
eh,
know I had to bring it up.
eh, sorry.
Uh-huh.
Home life, school life, personal life, how you were born, the family you were raised in means so much more than where those planets are and how your life affects you.
It definitely, that has a lot to do with it. I think there's still some truth to astrology. We got to have a whole. We'll have like. Have you seen those things on TikTok or live streams? They're like,
Psychology
this is
over
what I believe. Change your mind.
astrology.
Yeah, It's a brutal and highly rewarding path. It is. And no matter, but it's like, this isn't the only path. It's just the thing that appeals to me from the Paqo Kuna tradition. It is like the oldest, if not one of the oldest, if not the oldest living tradition. And it has stayed the course of time because there are very practical people up in the mountains. If it doesn't work, why do it? They need it for survival and everything. And so over time, what has stayed has been the things that have worked. And so you have a tradition that has time and tested tools and things, and I just find it to be a lovely tradition personally.
Yeah. And because it's so flexible to work, because you're working with nature, right? And nature changes all the time. So using the nature around you and the nature of the person and those energy fields, you're not locked into certain little boxes that you can only address yourself or someone else by these rules. It's what's going on, what's changing, what change do they want to happen, and what do you need to do? So um that's what I loved about it was, you can only do A if B is like this and C is this color. No, because we change our mind constantly, millions of times a day in a week. So, and that this tradition allows you to change what needs to be done.
Bringing up nature, one quick point. Oh, yeah, you're going to bring up the tired side, but like nature, when there's like a natural disaster, it's not judging what happened. It's just a situation. And what I want to say to that is, with all these personal things coming up, one of my favorite quotes from Osho, he talked about how he has never met a single person who has had a problem, only people with situations that they made problems out of. And so if you think about nature, when you have natural disasters and all these things and whatever's going on in your life, if you can look at it as it's just a situation and take a step back from it, and then just how would you like to deal with the situation, it's our mental projections and our judgments that end up spiraling it into a much bigger thing than what it actually is.
Mhm.
Okay, now onto the petty tyrants.
Petty tyrants. We all have one or three, maybe at some point in our life. Not maybe not constantly, but
I'm glad mine isn't as pronounced in my life currently, so that's good. What was the whole thing? Could we talk about petty tyrants, their roles in your life, and your role as one? Hee
you take a little much too much pride sometimes being one.
I
And
do
yes,
I.
that is my opinion. Um,
Well, thank you, I suppose.
and I'm sure I've
If you're
your
gonna play
life
a
like
role, you might as
stop
well go big.
it. They are probably some of your best teachers, right? The ones that just push you to those limits that make you realize what you're no longer going to tolerate, what you need to change in the situation. And there was a person in, I think it was the very first apprenticeship that never outright did anything to me, but their mere existence was like nails on a chalkboard. Just and towards the end of it, there was even like a ride from one of our field trips that somehow they ended up in the same car. And I'm just like, do not push them out the door. Do not push them out the door. Do not open the door and push them out on the highway. And really kind of sitting there. And it was one of those drives, I think back from like Sandusky or something. We were a ways away. So it wasn't just a 10-15 minute, it was like an hour drive. So and I remember, it was when we did the flyering because everybody was just soaking wet. We were up on that hill. It started raining. The grass was high. So if you were not wearing, high boots or whatever, like your shoes were soaking wet, your socks, your pants, like, bleh. And I hate the feel of wet jeans. So I'm like, when we get back, I'm immediately going in there and changing clothes because my skin's crawling from the feel of this wet fabric. And soon as we get in there, like they beat me in there. And then I'm like, I'm going to go into this other one. And I get tied up with other people. And I'm like, I'm going to go into the other one that other people aren't supposed to use. And I'll be damned if that person didn't go into that one too. And I'm like, you know what? And then all of a sudden there was like this little shift. And I'm like, oh, they're like a little kid in a way, like in their way of approaching, like they're just doing what they need to do. They have no concept of how it might appear or feel at, it was like just this shift of like, oh, okay. And like from that point on, like, I'm like, they're just a person, like that little switch changed everything. And from the rest of that point, I was like, yeah, okay. but it just took my little light bulb going off above my head to kind of step into their place. And I think that is something that we learned in that first apprenticeship of shifting and looking back at yourself while looking down at things happening to expand and see why things are going. And it was just like this quick little yanked out, looked at it, saw from like their perspective to mine. And I'm like, oh, okay, carry on. You know, I'll sit here and be uncomfortable for a few more minutes, but fine. It's great. Everything's fine. Um, it was no longer a tyrant for me. I'm sure I've been a tyrant in other people.
Oh, I'm sure you probably have a long list of where you get to play that role.
Yeah, yeah. Like my kid, go clean your room, pick up your dishes. You want to share a tyrant story, Hank?
I don't know. Well, my tyrant wasn't even.
Share a tyrant story, Hank.
I have plenty of. Well, I'm more probably other people's tyrants than people are tyrants to me. But no, there was like during. You know, I don't know if I can safely tell the story. Very vaguely, because you never know who's watching and things. I just had an experience where because of somebody else's actions, I was on somebody else's radar, and they really just roasted me on social media to the point where I got a lawyer involved to craft a public response and everything because it was so bad. And it was just like my initial response was to react. And I'm glad I didn't because it would have been really bad. I'm sure it would have been really bad. But it was like that person for me pushed so much boundaries and everything that I was crippled energetically in a sense. And I really had to take a step back and like, how do I really want to respond? I don't want to react. And took my time, did the thing. And even now, like we're still okay, I suppose, like that person and I, but it was such a, just that energy continued for a couple of years to be like this real potent adversarial energy. And I think things are better, but it's still like something that it was a good example of me of to take a breath, respond. I still need to remind myself of that a lot. Take a breath, respond versus react. How would I like to really be in the situation? But those people have a tendency to push you to the point where you have just reacted and now you're looking back and going, whoa, look what I just did. Was that even me? Who was that? Because they usually are triggering something that is unconscious, and it brings up like there's a concept called complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and they can bring something up that might be like cellular memory, that all of a sudden you have an emotional flashback and your nervous system is going back to a point when you were reactionary, and it's bringing up all this energy, and now you're reacting, and by the time you actually catch up and can take a step back to center yourself, you've already done all this damage. And so those tyrant people are really good at pushing to you to the points where that you recognize where your triggers still are. And then the magic is to stop and say, when have I felt like this before? What's underneath that? What is the original wound that is creating the space where I want to react like that? And if you can maintain that level of consciousness when you're having a trigger moment like that, you can have these huge growths and things. And then it's like, don't think you're done and that, oh, I can figure out that trigger. I don't have to worry about it anymore, because you might have something push you again like that. And it's about staying conscious, noticing it. And that's what a lot of these tools and things do in the program, is give you the tools to stay conscious, and to elevate where you're reacting from or responding from. So instead of that, like from our Nustanawi, our tailbone, if you're like impulsive reacting, instead of that, you're reacting with compassion instead, or choosing to respond with compassion instead. And that's where the tyrants really, really are beneficial. It is the pressure that is creating the pearl of wisdom, those tyrants. And now you have this beautiful medicine that you can share with the world. So tyrants, they should be your best friend, right?
Well,
just take them doses.
They're going to teach you real quick where your boundaries should be that keep getting overstepped, or past things that you thought you dealt with. You're like, oh no, I'm over that bully in second grade. Are you though? Are you? The fact that you can remember that person. Are you though? So, I mean, they're some of our best teachers.
Yeah.
But to remember to look at them differently. And we're all human, right? You might have that automatic uh, reaction sometimes because we're just human and there's just life going on around all the time. And it can be hard to kind of stay in that spiritual, like non-reactive to stimuli all the time. But, you just catch yourself and come back and go, okay, let's really look at this as it is. Why am I reacting that way? Um, Karen says, I'm extremely interested in the program. I'm going through a lot of healing work with angels and ancestors. Is there too much trauma? I don't think there's a such thing as too much trauma. Um, Now, this will be something I will say that as you're going through, and if you have things that are coming up, by no means should you never reach out to, and this is for anybody, not just Karen, things coming up, right? Reach out to me, Hank, Zane, and never replace medical with anything we would like. If they work well and well in tandem together. But if you get to a place where things are coming up and you're feeling overwhelmed and you need more than just talking, to feel free to go talk with a professional, with an MD or a PhD or something behind their name.
LPC.
Yeah, with a few more initials after their name in the medical field. But this is something that if there's concern about this, then maybe, taking the time to take things slowly as you need to. Don't feel like you have to rush through everything that we're going. There is nothing that says you can't step out of the program. Like, let's say you make it the first 4 months, right? And you're like, I am overwhelmed. All of this is coming up. And if you have to come out, the next time we offer it, you can start at 5 and finish. There's been times where we've had some clients, students who maybe had to skip a month and then we catch them up on the side and bring them, back up to speed. But if you are going through a whole lot and this program is really kind of bringing up stuff that's been ignored for a while and you're feeling overwhelmed, there is no shame, or you're not looked down upon if you're like, I need to finish processing all of this before I can move on to this. And that's actually applauded, because that means you are paying so much attention to yourself and realizing what you need to do this work, that I would rather recommend that than nope, suck it up, keep going. Like, nothing good would come of that. That's more of an implosion, and that might cause that pachacuti that you don't want that.
Well, that's the biggest thing, learning to really advocate for what you need in the moment. But there's a difference between knowing what you need, and then we've also had people that when the stuff starts coming up, they just want to close the door on it and not look at it. And that I suppose is fine too. But I would, if you feel like you're just overwhelmed, but you just need help with being a push, just have the discernment. Do I really need to step back, or do I just need some additional help and facilitation through something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I say to myself, keep going, because I do everything the hard way. But it's paying attention to yourself and what you need and speaking up. Sometimes that is the lesson for everybody, learning when to speak up and knowing that it's safe to do so, to reach out for that help, for that extra guidance. And sometimes that's a huge lesson for a lot of people that the rest of us will take for granted. Let's see. How come psychologists say it's normal for people to talk to God, but when God talks to you, it's considered schizophrenia?
Because it's profitable. No, I don't know.
Right. Exactly. It's it's a path you don't have to sprint. Take it at your speed. So, and this is why a lot of people take it over and over again. It's never the same year after year. You learn new stuff about yourself on top of the new stuff that Zane just happens to teach because it's on his mind, or, the energies are telling him, you need to talk about this today. Forget what you had planned. Somebody in this group, or all of them, need to know this right now. So I sit in the in-persons every time he's got it going on. because it's just fascinating. And I'm like, oh, I thought I was done with that. Guess not.
But we have a couple people like that. I know Mary Lee when she's on. I think she's been in since the very first program, and she takes it again and again. And it's though we might do the same initiation exercises or whatnot, it is never the same program twice. And the biggest thing is the questions, like whatever. And Zane's really good too. Like he'll be talking about something, and I'll get a text from someone in the class. I'm like, I was just thinking about that. It's like he's in my head, because he's kind of like tapped into people, and whatever he is inspired to talk about is what's in the field and what's on people's minds. So really consciously and unconsciously, the program is tailored to the group and what's going on with the group. It's really spooky, kind of like how that happens.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, make sure we didn't miss any other questions. Hello, everybody coming in. Hello, Ren. Was lurking with you earlier. Let's see, but yeah, definitely feel free to ask questions. New friends coming in. It's kind of like an open format today. Questions about this type of healing work, the apprenticeship. Questions for us about how we've learned to deal with things, or what our thoughts or experiences were different parts of the program. Let's see. I think it definitely is. I agree. I don't think there's nothing to be ashamed of to see a psychologist, especially in this day and age. Absolutely right. And I do love that right now in this day and age, like the shame that used to come from that is not near as what it used to be. Like, but in the 70s and 80s, if you were seeing a psychologist, oh my God, you were awful. Now it's like, yeah, me too. Hello. But yeah, this is definitely take it at your own pace. Take it as many times as you want. It's always different. That's why I have like 3 or 4 binders, because for each year, at some point I need to sit down and put them all into one giant one. I might need a month vacation to do that and do nothing else but that. Can you describe Aini and provide some examples?
We talked a little bit about that earlier on, and that was when we were talking about how friendships and things can fall away. Like friendships naturally have an Aini when it works. I remember Zane was helping me out with something a year or so back with regards to that. Like if there's not a true give and take, if like one person's taking more than they're giving or vice versa, that's an example when Aini would not be present, and friendships just naturally don't work. But probably the best example everyone can relate to Aini would be us and trees. Aini is divine reciprocity. We are breathing out carbon dioxide. They need carbon dioxide. They're expelling oxygen. We need oxygen. And there's a natural symbiotic Aini relationship between us and trees and things of that nature. And in this tradition, we use that concept because if you give, you must receive. It's the law of Aini. So a lot of the initiations and a lot of the exercises are ways that we give our heaviness, our hucha, to the nature spirits. And in return for that hucha, we receive back different information or gifts or energy. Like how a waterfall cleanses energy. You offer the hucha, you learn how to cleanse energy, those types of things. Or giving your Aini or your heaviness to a tree, and in response to that, the tree can teach you Aini. The tree can teach you to be the like master alchemist, how to take all those 4 nature elements and create something new with it, how to be a portal between worlds and all that type of thing. So there's all kinds of different ways that Aini can be used. Not used, but there's lots of examples of Aini.
So Ren's like, wait, what's in your binders?
Notes.
I call this
meticulous
my Zane bag. This is my leather backpack from high school, like back when they made good shit.
Right? Wow, that looks really good still.
I know. I'm like, that thing is still hanging in there. The only thing that's ever happened is the lining ripped out, and I'm sorry. I've had that thing since like 96. Throwing my age out there. So what's in my binders? We have year after year of sitting in the apprenticeship. 3 binders. There's this notebook. There's a black one that's for separate parts of this book. Then we have Zane's book for reference. And then we have this one. That's another reference. He tabbed out. So, and this is another class that he teaches. So to put all of that minus the green folder into like a mini teachable order. Like if we were to take all of that info and put it in order from like weekend 1 through the end, is going to take me a minute. So long so that how many years I've been sitting with him and teaching with him and learning with him, and I have yet to do it. I need like little scribe fairies to sit here and go through this. Like I need that library, that magical library where it writes itself and flips the pages and scans and says, here you go. I think they call that AI now.
Well, you can work on that when I go through all the content that I have. Zane started letting me record them, and I don't even know how many hours of audio and video content from all the classes that if we were to transcribe it and categorize it, we would have an audio visual library from all of his teachings too, which would be amazing. That's on my to-do list, but when?
You know, it's funny. I've had people come up and ask, you know, if they can apprentice under me, be it under the store or for the shaman. And I'm like, no. And they're like, yeah, like I'll help you do other things. And I should now be like, if you so choose, this is what you have to do. Organize all this. And if you can do
it, then you're in.
Yeah. So when we do these talks and we talk about and we plan our topic ahead of time, I'm sitting here flipping through and pulling pages and making, you know, like, because I don't bend pages. You do not bend a page in a book. So putting in bookmarks and tabs and like, here's this page to reference this, here's to this, you know, finding all of that. So usually the table behind the computer is like books and binders open with like pens, paper, you know, like ready to flip if needed to those notes, because, you know, I still have yet to put all of this in one big chronological order.
Yeah. It's also good that you've done that because you can see how the program changes and evolves year to year, because they will sometimes not teach the same thing exactly the same twice. Some things are exactly the same and other things kind of breathe because it is a living tradition and things can be customized and adapted for the group and all that. And oh yeah, in your spare time, you can do this.
Sure. If I were to be crazy enough to drive to Tucson ever again, whoever would be driving with me while they're driving, maybe this is what I do. But I'm sure I would find something else that I would rather do.
That or your phone will be blowing up because stuff needs to be addressed at the store or something. So
I'm sure. I'm like, I am unreachable. Do not talk to me. Yeah. Well, and to put this together and then to maybe even have to like go through the videos and just put one big thing. Actually, you know what? Screw this. We just need to have Zane sit down and like, what's going on where? That might be easier.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of information. And what's fun, let me see if you can even tell the difference. In the very first year, Zane did not allow us to really take a whole lot of notes because it's a traditionally oral learning and tradition. So they don't go around writing stuff. They just experience and you memorize it. I think we can see a difference enough. So first year, right? Look how thin in there. Handwritten notes when allowed, or me coming home and immediately writing down shit that I wasn't supposed to. Versus maybe this one. This is second or third. So this one is second, and some of this in the back end is still kind of blank paper, right? So a little bit more. There's a few handouts provided in this one. Zane's like, you're right. We need handouts compared to that last one. So, you know, handouts and notes, you know, a lot of information's in there. Can we talk about Hucha? And is it bad? I'm thinking about the goal of to love both good and bad things about yourself for allowance. Hucha's not bad. Hucha's just heavy. The forbidden black binder, right? Yeah. Well,
Holding onto hoochah can be bad. Like,
yeah.
because like we're the only beings, and we'll talk about how we're the only beings that actually make hoochah, and Pachamama needs our hoochah. So you make all this hoochah, and if you keep it for yourself, no, you don't want to keep it for yourself. You want to give it to the earth, and because that is food for the underworld in this tradition. So you create the hoochah, you give it. That hoochah is the pressure that creates the pearl wisdom. So hoochah is not bad. It helps polish us and refine us and evolve us, but you don't want to hang on to it. So the idea is when you have it, you gift it as a beautiful gift to the mother. If you go, ew, here's some hoochah, she won't want that. If I came to your house with a box of chocolates, like here's some ugly chocolates I got you that taste bad, and they were just the cheap, that gift isn't really wanted. Then it's like you really have to look at the hoochah as a beautiful, beautiful thing to give to the mother, and in that context, she takes it greedily, like readily and greedily, and very happy to do it. But it's not bad.
No, it's just a heaviness. And that's when you start accumulating that heaviness that you fall out of Aini. So like I kind of mentally figure or picture Aini as like that wave, right? You think of and I always think of Hawaiian grandma riding the wave in Hawaii,
Yeah.
because you're smooth going on easy, one of Zane's terms that he says a lot. And you're writing that out. And then you start to gather worry about things, right? Like for me, oh, the store's not selling as much. And now I start worrying about sales and transactions. Now I'm getting heavy. Now I'm falling out of Ione and I start sinking instead of writing that. You let that go, you let that worry go and realize, hey, maybe this is just a slow period to get ready before holiday sales. This is that time of like rest now because you're going to get your ass kicked here in about a month and a half. So changing that thought and going, oh, okay, and letting go of that heaviness, and you come back up into riding that wave that flows through everything. The hooch is the heaviness that takes you out of that. And so it's not bad or good. It's really kind of like your perception, right? And you're not a bad person. It's just a feeling that you're having. What did he say? There's emotions and feelings. One, I can never remember which way it goes. One,
I don't remember his take. I say like feelings are the language of the soul. That's like a quote from Neil Donald Walsh. But emotions are when you take a feeling and you apply past data to it, and now you have made it something different than what it is.
Yeah, the feeling is like you experience it, and the emotion makes it more than it needs to be, and
right.
it can become the problem that you're overreacting to something.
Right.
You're reacting then instead of just feeling and noticing.
Yep. And thoughts are just thoughts. Thoughts, when you apply more energy to them, that's when they become these bubbling things that all of a sudden you're spiraling out. And whether it's a good thought or a bad thought, they're all just thoughts. And whatever you focus on, energy flows where your attention goes. So it's like, be mindful when you have that thought about sales not being, but you can also go like, whoa, this is a great opportunity for me to take a different direction with an event or something else. It's just a thought. And then what you focus on can create going one way or the other in terms of a spiral.
Right. So it's hooch is not bad. It just is. It's how you deal with it that can be perceived as bad.
And angel hoochah is light for us. So that's
right?
definitely not bad. That's hoochah too, technically, if you want to think about it, because that's heavy energy for them. That's light for us, just as our hoochah is light for the underworld. So it's all just energy, and we're just really labeling a gradient.
Yeah.
Based on where you're at. Because what's heavy for Melissa might not be heavy for me, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm. So it's different for everybody. And that's one thing to remember, right? Like your friends are like, oh my God, this is going on and life sucks. And you're like, why are you complaining about that? Like remembering we all have different things and it's hitting different, and try not to be judgmental. And this is where any of you that have watched the Wednesday mornings with Marianne and how to get on that soapbox about like quit judging people who are negative. You have no idea what they're going through, what they just learned on the way in from their work, from their family, like quit passing that judgment. It just is. So it's remembering that, to be kind to one another and not to put the judgment, and what's heavy for them may not be heavy for you. So don't judge it. Perfect. Another example, come from military family and friends, and having one person who ex-infantry who was deployed to Mosul, kicking indoors, having to do horrible things as per orders, sitting in a therapy group, and another younger person who PTSD from the sounds of gunfire, who didn't actually have to be in combat, but still having that reaction. And the first person judging and being like, why would you have PTSD from that? You've not been shot at. And like, but for them, that's a lot. And maybe you still need to address it because it's aggravating you. So this perception of what is right and wrong and what is heavy for one, why would you judge that as like, why are you worried about that? Do you want to talk about the Hucha
Kind of. So Tony's asking about the Huchimikwi. Mikwi means to digest, and so it literally means to digest heavy energy. And in the program, one of the things you learn to do is to digest energy. That is not for a beginner. But through the process, you learn to digest heavy energy just like the earth does. So instead of giving your heaviness to the earth, you'd be in a position where you have a client or something's happening. You would be able to bring the heavy energy into you and you cultivate it and digest it. And the advantage to that is, remember how I said Hucha is kind of like the potential rocket fuel, right? So like if this is just on a gradient, like condensed energy and things, like if you're able to digest that energy yourself, it could really create a lot. But at the same time, you can have a meal that is too big for you. I have had times when I have done a huchimikwi and I've gotten physically ill because I ate too much. And I wasn't ready for it, maybe, or whatever the case is. So it's something to be mindful of as a technique. I would always be in the question of if you should do it, who you should do it with. And it's not to be done lightly. It's something that's way late in the apprenticeship. And some people who've taken it, there's a progression to it that until you do a certain technique with a certain type of person, you cannot use it as a healing technique. And so
Right.
it is not necessarily something that even if you take the program that you're going to be running out just eating people's sucha all the time, there is, or even for a client or whatnot, it is a progression of technique that eventually you may be able to use it as a healing technique for people.
Mm-hmm. So it's, yeah. I don't know if I've gotten sick, and maybe that just means I haven't done it enough.
I
But
don't know.
yeah. And I remember thinking when we were given the instructions, like one of the last ones you have to do is eat the hucha of your greatest tyrant, your greatest enemy.
Yep. Which I've
And
done. Check.
I mean, I ended up doing all of them, but it took me a little longer to do that last one, only because who I thought was my tyrant wasn't.
Oh.
And so that was like a double lesson. I'm like, oh shit. Well, okay then.
Well,
Let's go do it.
and thinking things through, what I think was the case in my situations where I have gotten ill, it wasn't so much what I ate of theirs, it was what it resonated within me that I wasn't wanting to let go of.
Mm,
And so and I have found that it happened with me oftentimes when I was working on someone with extreme heavy addiction, and I'm in recovery. I've been sober from alcohol for like 18 years, a long time. But I would find that if I was working somebody with addiction and did a huchimikwi, I would oftentimes be off. And I think it was more maybe I have my own stuff that I still need to work on around whatever it was I was digesting for them. It's like, well, you're eating theirs. Why don't you take a look at what you got?
while you're at it.
While you're at it, yeah, it's like you have this whole box of hoochie chocolate you haven't done anything with. Maybe you should do something with this. Give it to the earth and eat it yourself, whatever. But maybe do something with it instead of just hiding it.
Yeah. Like, did you see this dark chocolate over here that you need to give?
Yeah, and and that's what analogy Zane has used for hoocha. It's kind of like chocolate. You got white chocolate, and then that is good. That technique, you have the salmon chikui, and like you can just bring in Father's Rain, and that's great for milk chocolate. And you got, or sorry, white chocolate. Then you got like milk chocolate. Maybe you do the saiwa chikui, which is like a cleansing with earth energy and that type of thing. And then for the real dark chocolate, you got the hoocha mikui. And so like there's different tools for the different levels or heaviness of the hoocha that you can use in the tradition too. So chocolate really is a great analogy, but all of it you can just give to the earth. The thing
Right.
is, we value our shit. And that's not a bad word. Spiritual, human, in transition. Like we like our stories, we validate our stories over and over again. We identify ourselves with the stories. So the real trick is the willingness to truly let go of the heaviness. And you might think you do, but there's part of you that is getting some sort of benefit from the hoocha, and you're like, but I want to keep it because I like getting angry and makes me feel powerful. So I don't want to let go of the thing that gives me the trigger that I like because it's intoxicating.
Mhm.
That type of thing. So that it's not such a binary process.
Oh, Zane, here we go. Traditionally, learn little by little. Why is this, and what is the importance of learning this way? To make it set in, to make sure you
Yep.
understand it.
Yeah.
It's rooted in there. You understand how and why, the logistics behind it, not just going through the motion.
Yeah.
Um, which is why it's okay to
Mhm.
step back and do the apprenticeship in small pieces if you need to. That's highly encouraged. Um,
Yeah. It even going slow, like I know with the online apprenticeship we just did, as slow as we were moving, it was still potentially too fast for people because, like Zane will say, knowledge that you can't apply is just trivia. And like you might get something conceptually, but to really let it take roots energetically may take a bit. And it's just like that slow acclimation process is really really good to make it cohesive within oneself. It is
mhm,
not a race to see who can learn the most and do the most or anything like that. You could take the whole apprenticeship program, take all the best notes in the world, but if you couldn't apply the concept on day one, then all of it is trivia. But that's
mhm,
why Zane also is a big fan of he doesn't need your belief, he just needs the benefit of your doubt. You do the experience, and then you like whatever the exercise that he gives you, and you have your own experience. And once you have your own experience, everything starts to build on that. When we did the online program, a lot of the students we I brought everybody in for like a review day, and everybody like that one day where they were in proximity in the field and we just talked about things, they got it on such a different level than going through videos and talking on calls and all that. That when you're in person and you have that energy Karpay in a way, because you're when you're with Zane or with a teacher in person, like your bubbles are touching, the group is merging, and you are getting downloads on such a different level than just what's spoken to. So there's something to be said for that in terms of you're doing these slow trickle things. What are you really taking in beyond what's being taught?
mhm. Yeah, well, and I think with in person, and not to start the debate of online versus in person.
They're both good. They both have their place.
Um, I think in person just makes it a little easier. There's different types of learners,
Yeah,
auditory, physical, sight. And when you're in person, there's the opportunity to address all of them at the same time, which is why I like it because I'm a hands-on and I also want to see it. Um, so, but we've had plenty of people do the whole online and have great experiences in learning on that. Um, uh, let's see, Karen, thank you. Great news to hear on the steps on the program. Yeah, so we do have the apprenticeship kind of posted up. There is like a payment program set up for anybody that might need it. You can also contact us individually to set up something if needed. But we want to make this as easy as possible for anybody who wants to join in and go into this and come join the crazy because we're all a
come
little
join the crazy. Yeah, but what does Zane's teacher says? We are all crazy, but there's good work to do in the crazy, so that's a good thing.
crazy. Hmm.
And I see somebody asking about community and returning students. There is going to be a different like, and it's not. I don't like saying a discount for returning students. They when it comes to alumni, you get a different price because your mere presence, having gone through the program, is helping create a morphic field of learning that is it's accelerating everybody. So in consideration of what you're bringing to the program, there's a different price, and we don't know what that price is yet because this year is a little different, being that we have this hybrid online plus the in-person, and I just don't have. Zane and I were just talking about that the other day. We will get that out soon, and we will announce that through the channels that we have to talk to students. But for
Hmm.
everyone else, there's payment programs. I posted a link. You can pay in full. You can do a 12-month program. You can do a down payment plus 7 payments, and if you need something beyond that, reach out because the goal is to make it available while also honoring the teacher. And I knew that we have to pay for lights and all these things too. So, but if you really feel called and you need to work something out, please contact more probably me. I'm on Facebook and everything. Reach out and we can talk and see what we can come up with for you.
Hmm. So we love new friends coming in, joining our crazy. little community that we have. And there are support groups online, like on Facebook and stuff, that we kind of bring everybody together, that everybody can talk, ask questions, and relate experiences. Like, hey, I experienced this. Did anybody else, or has anybody else felt, a certain way as going through certain, is that normal? And it's easy to get hold of us. But if you're local, by all means, like, you can just, I would say you can walk in and nab me at any point. But here lately, I've been so in and out of the store doing events that I may not be there. Hank is almost always there on the Thursdays. So
Yep.
Thursday's kind of a safe day that one of us will be there. But
Yeah. Or just reach out to me. I'm on the store site. I don't know if my email's up there, but like, you can reach out to me on social media and any day. I have my office also in Westlake. And if you want just a little taste of the program tonight at 7, me and another alumni of the program, Cricket, we are doing a breath work plus sound bath event, and tomorrow I'm doing ceremony and sound. So if you just want a taste of it, you can come out to one of those events. You can reach out to me if you want more information on that. And then I know, oh no, that's not in the program yet. Nanette should take the program.
She's been thinking about it.
I know she almost came in this last time, but that, like,
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I know Nanette is doing a sound bath for the lunar eclipse on Saturday at Goddess Elite. So there's a couple, but her and I teach Reiki together, so like, I know the quality of her work and energy. So like, if you can't make it to one of my things, though it doesn't have the Paqo spin on it, then that stuff is amazing, and she'll be at the store on Saturday doing it. And there's also a journey circle tomorrow night at the store as well for everything you fear. So like, if you want to get a little bit of one up on your fear stuff, you can also go out to the store and take part of the journey circle. Lots of stuff coming up. But for the tradition, my thing tonight and tomorrow, if you want a little taste of the Paqo Kuna tradition, one with the little sound bath.
Yeah. So, it's like 11 on the
dot.
dot.
That's why Tony's, he's always like, Nike, Pacos, have a wonderful day. He's like, peace out.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll be back next Thursday at 10 a.m. I don't think we have a topic yet.
We don't have a topic yet.
So we might figure that out in the meantime. But if you have questions, feel free to email, message, whisper, whatever platform you're on, and let us know. Sometimes that helps us decide what topic we're going to talk about because of the questions that are coming in.
Yeah. I will schedule the stream now, though, just as a general talk, and then we'll update it, because otherwise I always forget about. I posted the stream yesterday at like 10 o'clock at night, and it'd be nice to let people know about it a little bit more in advance.
Right?
Well, I can also go through Zane's book. Zane has his book, Inka Mountain Magic, and it has a whole bunch of different things. And there we can go through the book and pick a chapter and talk about that.
There they are. I'm like, I literally just had them and I went nowhere. How did I lose it already? Yeah. We might maybe do a poll at some point. Like, here's topics and chapter titles. Pick one.
Soul retrieval could be a topic.
But he's got a pretty in-depth book. So, and these are available at the store if you want to read up on it before, see if that really is what you want to do. We might even get him to scribble in one for you.
I got one scribbled in already, if you want a scribbled one.
Scribbled.
Either way, reach out to Melissa. She is a seller of things. So
peddle my wares. All right, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
We'll see you next
everyone.
week.